Now, before I get to implement save cart and get cart, I'm going to define the session state extension methods because we're going to be saving the cart information in the session that the user has in the server memory. So, but for that to happen, we have to define two extension methods. We're going to have to define one to save the information to the memory session, the other one to get it from memory. So we're going to be using JSON to do that. So let's go back to our code. And from here, we're going to define an extension method for the sessions. So I'm going to the infrastructure folder, and then I'm going to create a new class called session extensions. So I'm going to call it session extensions. And because this is an extension class for the methods, we're going to have to declare this as static. So I'm going to declare static, and then we're going to have two of them. We're going to have a set. I'm going to call this a set JSON, because this will save the cart information as a JSON structure. It will save to the session, and that's why we are extending the session. The key will be cart, and the object, the value, will be the cart itself, the object, the cart object. So key is the name cart, and object is the cart object. Now we have to add a few namespace here. So at the top, I'm gonna add using Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.HTTP, so I can use iSession, and I'm gonna also use Newtonsoft to use the JSON. So we're gonna be using JSON to save our cart information in the session. So I'm gonna call Newtonsoft.json, and here I'm gonna create the body of my method. I'm gonna call this session dot set string. So I'm gonna save the string in the session. Session is a very limited and simple memory allocation. It has basically one key and one string. That's the reason why we're using JSON to do that. So the key will be the key that comes from the parameter. So will be key here. And the string will be, we're gonna serialize the object value, and then we're gonna use JSON convert dot serialize object, and we're gonna send the value, which is the cart, to, so we convert the cart to a serialized JSON, and then we save that and we store in the session. We're gonna do something similar to, but the opposite, to deserialize in the second method. So we're gonna create a second method here called public static. We're gonna be returning a generic, which in the end will be a cart. The name of the method will be get JSON, and it will accept the type as a generic. And then we're gonna have this iSession, session. So this is the type that we are extending, and we're gonna say, we're gonna set the key as well. So we're gonna say, hey, we want this particular key from your session memory. Now, what is it that we're gonna return? Well, let's create a variable here called session data, which will get the session dot get string, using which key? The key that we are sending via the parameter. So we get the cart. So var session will have the cart, the raw cart string. Now we have to return the cart. So we can say return if session data is equals to null. So if the cart is not there yet, then return default t. So it returns a new cart. So it just returns a null cart in case session data is null. So initially there's no cart. However, if there is a cart, if it's not null, then we have to deserialize. We have to call JSON convert dot deserialize object. What is the type? The type is the one that we are sending over. So the type is right here. We have to deserialize to this type, and we have to send it the session data. So we have to deserialize this session data. So again, if it's null, return a null cart. If session data is not null, deserialize the session data and convert it back to a cart. Now, we're going to be using both of these on our controller. So we're going to be using them right here. Our save cart methods will be void, will be private, but it will receive a cart. And then we're going to call HTTP contexts.session because you're going to be, again, saving to the session. We're going to call set JSON. However, we have to add at the very top, we have to add the namespace using SportsStore.infrastructure. And now we're going to be able to see our session.set JSON, which expects the key. The key will be cart, and the value will be the cart object. So this is how we save the session. Now, how do we get the session? Well, in the get part, we're going to return a cart, of course. But then we have to declare a cart here inside, which will go to the session HTTP context.session. Again, we have our extension method called getJSON. GetJSON, what is the type? The type is a cart, and we are getting the key called cart. If this is not null, if this is null, then we're gonna get a new cart. However, if this is not null, which means that the cart is already in memory, then cart will have the current cart that is in memory for this user. And at the end here, we can just return our cart, our new cart, or our existing cards. Again, it might be null, it may not be null, but this will return either a brand new cart or the existing cart that is already in memory.